After studying this module, you shall be able to understand the problem of food security in India, understand the rationale behind government operations in food grains, analyze the impact of government operation on the food economy, analyze the issue of agricultural subsidy in relation to food security.
At the beginning of the 21st century, the world's leading development institutions and countries reached a consensus at the United Nations to define a set of 8 Millennium Development Goals, commonly known as MDGs. These goals range from poverty reduction to imparting primary education to gender equality and better health with an aim to improve the lives of the people, particularly in the developing world threatened by disease and hunger. Of these, the very first goal is to eradicate extreme poverty and hunger. In this context, providing food security to people has gained priority and significance in policy and is an important objective of economic development.
Food security in India. We begin by first defining the term. Food security was initially understood as food self sufficiency or adequate availability of basic food products. However, this definition is incomplete and needs to be broadened as mere availability cannot ensure accessibility. Availability must be complemented with both physical and economic access to food with nutritional adequacy of the food consumed. These together form a comprehensive food security policy. Food security comprises sufficient or adequate production and supply of food grains in line with the requirements. Ensuring availability does not imply that all the food grain must be domestically produced. Domestic production can be supplemented with imports so as to ensure prompt and adequate availability. An efficient distribution system which allows accessibility to food. This requires a distribution network, both state sponsored and market based, which can make food available to people in both rural and urban areas. Physical access needs to be accompanied with economic access. This implies that the people should have adequate purchasing power to purchase the food required by them. Moreover, it also includes fair pricing of food so that it is affordable for all. The food purchased and consumed by people should provide them adequate nutrition. Hence, mere availability and physical and economic access are not sufficient for food security. It has to be nutritionally adequate. The main components of food security system in India comprise increase in food grain production, providing a minimum support price to farmers, procurement of food grains, disbursing food through the public distribution system, and maintaining buffer stocks. This policy has been formalized in the form of the National Food Security Act passed in September 2013.
The issue of physical and economic access by the very poor or the people below the poverty line has been tackled by distributing food grains through the fair price shops or the ration shops at subsidized prices. This is known as the public distribution system or the PDS, under which the issue prices are kept below the market price, thus involving food subsidy to the poor. However, the PDS has not been able to provide the necessary amount of nutrients or nutritious food to the poor, as it has concentrated more in the urban areas with the very limited reach in the rural areas. Hence, one can conclude that food self sufficiency in India has not led to the food security.
Let us discuss the government operations in food grains. A review of government's operation in food grains and the PDS is imperative as it is the cornerstone of India's policies to tackle hunger and poverty and provide food security. The system of providing food under the PDS involves organized effort on part of government. It starts with the procurement of the food grains comprising wheat, rice, and core cereals at the minimum support price. The MSP or the procurement price is above the harvest price with the aim to stabilize prices and incomes of the farmers. The MSP tries to do away with the disincentive of a bumper crop and a crash in prices, thereby affecting farmers' income or a price rise associated with a lean crop. The Food Corporation of India purchases food grains from the farmers. It offers a price to procure the excess output at a price which will stabilize farmers' income at a given level that lead to a fall in income due to a bumper crop. MSP is a floor price which is above the harvest price. The latter is the lowest price the farmer can get. Thus, MSP involves a subsidy to the farmer to make farming viable. The government has set up the Agricultural Prices Commission, which was later renamed as the Commission on Agricultural Costs and Prices, with the responsibility of deciding the MSP for various crops. One of the basic tenets of food security system is to make food available to the people at an affordable price. The PDS or the targeted PDS TPDS for the very poor BPL caters only to a poorer section of the society. It is important for the state to ensure that even the open market price of food grains does not fluctuate very sharply, inversely with the nature of the harvest. In order to prevent wild fluctuation in prices, the government has to maintain buffer stocks which are formed by the crops procured by the FCI at MSP. Hence, the procurement at MSP is used to build buffer stocks in times of a bumper harvest which are used or run down in times of shortages, thus avoiding erratic movements in food prices in the open market. These buffer stocks are also used to provide subsidized grain to the poor through the PDS or the TPDS. Maintaining buffer stocks needs to be done at the least cost possible. Related to this is the issue of an optimal size of the stock, as holding stocks by the government imposes a cost of transportation and storage. Once the stocks are procured, they must be stored efficiently to avoid losses due to theft, corruption, weather, and pests. Then they must be moved on time to curtail pressures on prices in different areas. The minimum buffer stock norm that must be maintained by the FCI is stipulated and changes according to the needs of the economy. Although maintaining buffer stocks is an indispensable part of the effort to provide food security, the government has to work on keeping the cost of their maintenance manageable. As such, the stocks exceed the norms, with the implication that the MSP and food subsidy is being allocated to a much larger share of output. Cost of transportation and storage of stock is also relevant. Losses due to poor handling and corruption all add to the high cost of buffer stocks. The issue of agricultural subsidy. Another aspect of food security is the element of subsidy involved in production, procurement, and distribution of food grains. Provision of subsidy to the agricultural sector for production and to the poor for consumption has been raised in the WTO as well. Justification for subsidizing food in a poor country like India cannot be contended. However, what needs to be done is to plug the loopholes to curb corruption and leakages and ensure channelization of subsidized grain to the target groups. Thus, efficiency and accountability has to be introduced in the system to make it viable and sustainable. Agricultural subsidy comprises producer and consumer subsidy. Main agricultural subsidies in India are input subsidies aim at providing the farmers subsidized inputs. These include fertilizer, irrigation, power, crop insurance, subsidized priority lending, other subsidized inputs, transportation, and warehousing. Output subsidies are designed to cover the cost over the market price. This includes MSP, which acts as a price floor to stabilize farmers' incomes and prices. Tariffs and quotas on imports also provide protection to domestic farmers. Export subsidies are used to make exports of agricultural products internationally competitive. Consumer subsidies. This is the issue price of food distributed through the fair price shops under the PDS and the welfare schemes under rural development. This issue price is kept below the procurement price, and the difference between the two comprises food subsidy. This also includes the cost of carrying or maintaining buffer stocks by the FCI. The stocks held are in excess of the norms, which helps safeguard the interests of producers in time of a bumper harvest. The efficacy of agricultural subsidies, especially input subsidies, has been questioned on the following grounds. Firstly, these subsidies impose a fiscal burden. They impose a deadweight loss on the domestic economy, create production and consumption distortions, and interface with trade patterns. Secondly, more often than not, input and output subsidies are approximated by large and medium farmers. They bypass the small and marginal farmers who are short of funds and are unable to generate enough marketable surplus to avail of MSP or other subsidies. Due to lack of appropriate storage and transport facilities, the small and marginal farmers are forced to sell their mud surplus at harvest prices. The rich farmers' lobby has been very effective in obtaining regular upward revision of MSP. Thirdly, overuse of cheap inputs like water, fertilizers, or pesticides leads to soil degradation, groundwater depletion, and soil nutrient imbalance. Fourthly, the provision of subsidies has failed to influence the cropping pattern. Rather, it distorts production and trade pattern in favor of commodities which are input intensive. Another limitation is that the government has so far failed to educate and train farmers in the judicious use of inputs, introduce new farming techniques, or encourage organic farming. There has been insufficient public investment in search and extension activities.
The share of plan outlays assigned to agriculture and irrigation has fallen from 37% in the first 5-year plans to 11% in the 10th plan. Regarding consumer subsidy, the PDS is criticized for its urban bias, with almost 18% of the rural population having no ration cards to avail of the subsidy. The more new liberal thinkers contend that now India is more closely integrated with the world economy, and hence obsession with food self sufficiency is no longer valid. Accordingly, India has an easy access to imports to tide over shortages, notwithstanding the fact that India still has a huge current account deficit in the balance of payments. Even under the WTO, agricultural subsidies in India have been a point of contention. In the recently concluded round in Bali in December 2013, India faced immense opposition on its use of subsidies. The agreements under the WTO aim at reducing or elimination of subsidies, which provide some countries an asymmetric advantage or allows them to dumping at low prices in the international market. The advocates of subsidy to agriculture argue that the use of agricultural subsidies is a global phenomenon. The per hectare subsidy in developed countries is much higher than that in the developing countries. In the US, for instance, the rate of producer support estimate ranges from 55% to the value of production in case of sugar to 22% for oil seeds. The average for the OECD countries members is 31%. It is 60 to 65% in Japan and Korea, and 60 to 75% in Norway, Switzerland, and Iceland. The lowest is in Australia and New Zealand at less than 4%.
The justification for the use of these subsidies in India is to achieve food self sufficiency and provide income support to the farmers and the poor consumers. They assist in rural development and help in achieving national food security. Use of import tariffs generates government revenue. The largest component of the subsidies is the input subsidies aimed at keeping farm costs low. Subsidy can be used to coordinate agricultural production in favor of cereals and necessary food grains over commercial crops to avoid inflationary pressures. The latter has direct implication for industrial wages and international competitiveness of industrial products. It is the large developed countries which control international trade in grains. The open ended policy is justified because of the uncertainty of demand supply imbalances in the future. Reliance on imports of cereals is not viable given the foreign exchange reserves are needed for industrial inputs and capital goods and POL imports. Self sufficiency in cereal production, therefore, must remain an overriding goal of any food policy in India. India's share in world consumption of cereals is as high as 15%, but production and trade are distorted by policies of the rich, developed countries. In India, only 5 states are surplus states in that cereal production exceeds its consumption.
There is a scope for improvement in the way the entire system is administered. Food Corporation of India must conduct its operations with greater cost and distributional efficiency. The food provided by it has to be quantitatively and nutritiously adequate. 60% of the total calorie intake still comes from cereals. It is suggested that employment creation and food delivery system should be distinct from each other, although the two can be used in the short term or in times of food crisis, notwithstanding the importance of productive employment in eliminating hunger and malnutrition. A reduction in the carrying cost of food grains cannot be achieved by either shifting to fixed targets of procurement or reduction in minimum support prices. It will directly affect the farmers' welfare. Rather, the policy must be extended to include farmers from all states, especially in the eastern and the central India, ensure good quality of grain to be distributed through the PDF to overcome the shortages of demand for PDS grain and the use of grain for public works programs like in the Food for Work and Antodaya Anna Yojana. Other social security programs where excess stocks can be used include distribution of food to vulnerable sections such as women, children, etc., and midday meals for children in schools. In this way, excess stocks can be used. The dual price system under the PDS and TPDS is open to corruption, and almost one third of grain is diverted from its intended use. Loss occurs on account of poor storage as well. PDS penetration in different states also varies. Procurement of wheat and rice has modified the cropping pattern in favor of these crops. Poor targeting, open ended procurement, poor shortage, and distribution and pilferage and corruption are some of the issues of the PDS that need to be addressed.
Food security is possible if there is adequate food availability. In more recent times, food habits have diversified which requires a change in the cropping patterns. This requires public investment, technology, credit, and land and water management. Economic and physical access needs to be ensured, which requires generation of productive employment opportunities than one-time subsidy transfer. Food resources will continue to dwindle unless there is concerted effort on part of the state to make agriculture an attractive economic option. With large masses of land being converted into residential concrete jungles, land productivity using viable, sustainable, and environment friendly technology must be increased. All of these requires state support, both institutional and financial. Given the large masses of small and marginal farmers who are cash constrained, subsidies to agriculture, particularly food subsidies, help provide the social safety net. Without food and input subsidies, high production and distribution costs will exert inflationary pressures and have a spiral effect on wages and prices of other goods. This will cut into the purchasing power of the most vulnerable groups, pushing them further into destitution and malnutrition. A poor, ill fed, and undernourished population is more of a drag on the economy. To free the people of a country from hunger, malnutrition, and any deprivation associated with the lack of food, the Right to Food Act must work on nutrition schemes for the children, the PDS, assistance to vulnerable groups, and other intervention. This requires institutional and legal support from the state. Right to food requires availability, accessibility, adequacy, and sustainability. The Millennium Development Goals of eradicating hunger and poverty is far from being met in India. Food security entails availability, physical and economic access, and nutritional adequacy. In India, availability has been achieved, but PDS has not reached in rural areas. Even in urban areas, the resident BPL population avails of the subsidy, but the migrants living in slums with no security net are at the mercy of the market for their needs. The producer subsidy is availed of by the large and medium farmer, while the small and marginal farmers are unable to generate sufficient market surplus to avail of this subsidy. The very poor in rural areas are the landless who have very little opportunities of productive employment in rural areas and constitute the large proportion of migrants. A large mass of underfed and undernourished population cannot constitute the human capital to bear the responsibility of growth and development in India.
Let us now summarize what we have learnt in this module. One of the most important objectives of growth and development in India is to eliminate hunger, malnutrition, and poverty. Providing food security to the large mass of people is a challenge for policymakers. Food security entails food self sufficiency to ensure availability and also physical and economic access to food grains. Moreover, food consumed by the people should be nutritionally adequate. To encourage higher food production, government has provided agricultural subsidies, both producer and consumer subsidies. This is to ensure stable incomes for farmers and avoid erratic movements in prices. Physical access is provided by PDS and TPDS for the poor at subsidized prices. There is controversy on the use of subsidies to agricultural sector in India. High procurement and storage cost of food grains incurred by the FCI can only be justified if the subsidy reaches the target groups. MSP appropriated by large farmers bypass the small and marginal farmers. The PDS has not been fully effective because it has an urban bias and does not cover the entire poor population. There are leakages in the system on account of administrative inefficiency corruption, mismanagement, pilferage, losses due to poor storage and handling with lack of protection from pests and elements of weather. Nonetheless, food self-sufficiency and food security must be accorded priority, and policies and subsidies should be used judiciously to safeguard the livelihoods of a large mass of poor farmers and consumers. Increase efficiency in government operations in food grains, comprising procurement and distribution of food grains, is imperative to justify the use of subsidies to the agriculture sector. More uniformity should be achieved across regions, farmers, and crops.